Today, a glitch in Vladimir Putin's propaganda machine. The Russian president was addressing the nation, celebrating his 2014 annexation of Crimea. But his big speech cut off before he was finished. You'll see it right here. The shot abruptly cutting to a group of singers. The Kremlin says it was just a technical glitch, and the speech was later replayed in its entirety. The Kremlin is also reacting angrily to tough and personal words from President Biden about Putin. The number 2 official at the State Department today promising a thorough effort to document possible Russian war crimes, but said Putin's hold on power was not a factor in administration policy.
The United States support regime change in Russia.
That is not what we are about. We are not, this is a decision for the people of Russia.
With me now to share their reporting and their insights, CNN contributor David Sanger of the New York Times, Vivian Salama of the Wall Street Journal. So David, let's start with you. You wrote a fascinating piece today about how this is President Biden's instinct. He makes big things personal. Right? And so let's just listen. Wendy Sherman there saying we're not about regime change, but she also knows that pokes Putin. The President of the United States, his words in recent days, directly poking Putin.
The Republic standing together against a murderous dictator, a pure thug who is waging an immoral war against the people of Ukraine. I think he is a war criminal.
Pros and cons.
So the pros here is the president saying what seems evident to us watching the video that you've been playing throughout the whole show, John. I mean, you take a look at civilians being targeted, that's the definition of war crimes. And the more he says this, the more the message is going to make its way out, including to the Russian people. They have to say that this is not about regime change, and in the short run, it's probably not. But in the long run, of course, the previous times that we have talked about leaders like this are Saddam Hussein, right? Bashar Assad, who's still in power, but we accused of war crimes and said we couldn't imagine Syria going on with him as a leader. Well, he's still a leader. The downside, that a cornered Putin, if he is failing on the battlefield and believes, whether it's true or not, that the United States is trying to stoke opposition to him at home, is much more likely to reach for extreme measures. And right now we're hearing from the intelligence community quite publicly that those extreme measures are chemical and biological, and we're hearing from the Defense Intelligence Agency that they believe he will threaten the use of nuclear weapons. I don't think he's actually going to use nuclear weapons unless NATO is actually in Ukraine. But that's the downside.
Well, so let's listen to the Secretary of State on that very point about possible Russian use of chemical weapons. To hear this so publicly is startling. Listen.
We believe that Moscow may be setting the stage to use a chemical weapon and then falsely blame Ukraine to justify escalating its attacks on the Ukrainian people. Manufacturing events and creating false narratives of genocide to justify greater use of military force is a tactic that Russia has used before.
It is a tactic they have used before, Vivian, but one of the trademarks of the Biden administration over the last several months has been getting way out ahead, disclosing intelligence publicly. The Russians are building up troops. They plan to invade. The Russians are moving their troops here. They plan to invade. They proved right. They were right in those declarations. So when you hear that, it gives you even more chills.
Absolutely. And obviously this has been part of the Russian playbook, not just in this conflict where we've seen sort of everything play out exactly as the administration has predicted, but Russia also has a pattern of doing this, not just helping other dictators around the world use chemical weapons, but also going against their own adversaries of the regime to use chemical weapons against them, or any kind of chemical that would basically inflict severe harm. And so this is something that the UN has expressed concern about, the Biden administration now expressing concern about, and they continue to ramp up pressure. I spoke to an official this week who was telling me, a large part of the intelligence has actually been declassified and downgraded so that they could continue to ramp up public pressure against Vladimir Putin. And so definitely when we do hear the Secretary of State or anyone in the administration going out there and saying anything, especially given how spot on their track record has been with the intelligence in this conflict, you have to say, okay, this is getting really bad.
Well, let me pick each of your reporting before we go. We're waiting to learn more about this very important call between the President of the United States and his Chinese counterpart. What is the sense at the White House as we wait to learn more? Do they, the goal number one is keep the Chinese from directly helping Russia. The question is there any scenario under which the Chinese would then turn to try to do something to help the United States? Vivian?
Well, The Chinese obviously do want to work with the United States. They want to have a trade relationship. They do want to engage to a certain extent, but at the same time, they also like playing both sides. And for them to have Vladimir Putin sort of coming out there with his hands out saying, can you please help us? It actually puts them in a very strong position. And so they believe that having that kind of dual-hattedness, where they on the one hand say promise to work with Washington, on the other hand don't completely slam the door in Russia's face, will be in the long run very beneficial to them.
We always want to know the answer today. The Chinese tend to take a longer view.
They do, but if you want the model here, John, look at how they've dealt with North Korea. You know, at various moments they've cracked down on them about their nuclear program, and then slowly they've resumed trade because they believe that staying engaged with them gives them some level of control and influence. And who hates being dependent on the Chinese? Vladimir Putin, who does not want to enter this relationship, this new relationship, as the vassal state. But that's where he is right now.
메이플 소리 새로운 엠버서더 블랙핑크의 시선이